The Baloch liberation struggle has completely exposed Pakistan's intelligence mechanism and perhaps the chinks in their entire internal security mainframe. Pak intelligence sources further telling CNN News 18 that the Baloch well-knit intelligence system strategized the hijack. They mirrored state intelligence agencies in human and also cyber intelligence. BLA's intelligence wing, it's called the Zirab, it gathered and analyzed intelligence. This hijack is similar to the BLA's most ambitious attack on Pakistani soil yet, that is the Dar-e-Buland, where all units worked in a well-coordinated way. Key similarities suggest all units worked in a similar manner and the operation stretched for more than 24 hours. So in 2024, they had tried to occupy a Mac city and also a key district in Bolan area and take control of it, and that is Dar-e-Buland. Bolan, which they believe is part of Baloch territory occupied by the Pakistanis and under Pak military control. They had executed this, which is perhaps the biggest strike by the BLA since their existence. Now the Jafar Express follows closely in 2025. This hijack was well planned with the use of all their units, the Zirab, the Majid Brigade, the Fateh Brigade and also the Special Tactical Operations Squad. Now they have built all of these within their own systems and they have been able to not just organize but also train, coordinate. More importantly, they not only are attacking, they're seizing control and then they're able to hold on to that control. I think those are the things which the Pak intelligence agencies now are saying that they're only gaining in strength and they've caught us snapping. Major Yasir Janjua, retired security analyst from Pakistan, is with us. Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain, former GOC 15 Corps of the Indian Army, with us. Mehran Murray, Baloch activist, with us, and Maruf Raza, defense analyst, with us. If we can go across to our guests. Let's go across to our guests. Thank you. If I can see them on the screen and say namaste to them, please. Let's go straight across to Syed Atta Hasnain. Namaste everyone. Thank you very much. General Hasnain, the Baloch Liberation Army or the BLA executing this on Pak soil is perhaps a continuance in a series of attacks that have been witnessed and what Pakistan claims they are themselves waging a war against terrorism on their soil. But in this case, this also has caught the entire Pak establishment unawares. There are a huge number of soldiers traveling in this and they have had no clue that something like this is being planned. This cannot be done on the spur of the moment. This is a hugely planned and implemented exercise.
Absolutely, Anand, this is your assessment is absolutely correct. My first thought, the moment I heard of this incident in Pakistan, my first thought was October the 7th, 2023. Very, very similar circumstances. You see a flagging BLA kind of a Balochistan angle emerging in Pakistan. You find the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan becoming much more prominent, more attacks by the TTP everywhere in Pakistan. The focus of the Pakistan security forces is most on the TTP. There are problems in Afghanistan on the Durand line. All that focus is there. And obviously, therefore, intelligence is not looking at Balochistan seriously enough. And I think the Baloch also realized very clearly that they were not receiving the focus of Pakistan. They were not receiving the international focus either. This is almost a similar situation to what the Hamas thought on October the 7th when they planned their operation in Gaza. This was something big, something spectacular has to happen, and that's always what militants, insurgents, terrorists do. I'm not even classifying the BLA into any of these segments. But this is exactly what they do, to try and draw the attention and of the entire segment that they're looking to project to. Yeah. And I think they've done it quite successfully. If you see, for the better part of the last 24 to 30 hours, television has been, in India, you have found many, many discussions going on, projections going on. I'm looking at it internationally. So this issue has been thrown up to the world, almost in a similar fashion, although the casualties may not be so high here. 1,200 dead in the case of the 7th October attack in Israel. Here, the casualties have been comparatively limited. The BLA is essentially looking at throwing up the issue internationally and obviously projecting it to the Pakistan government.
No, the big difference between the Hamas and the BLA is that the Hamas was butchering innocents.
Absolutely.
They went and into a fair and
They
they tried
terrorists.
to.
They are
yeah,
terrorists.
Yeah, and they
That's
butchered
why I do
innocents,
not-
raped
I
women,
don't
children,
classify-
etc. Yeah, so we.
I don't
Yeah, but you're
classify
saying
BLA.
that they created a spectacle. The spectacle that got turned the world's attention, and here they've created a spectacle where they caught the Pak army and the Pak military establishment napping. They have freed the civilians. Their own words say that not a single woman or child has been harmed. That's what they have claimed. The Pak army has also not said, or the Pakistan government officially has also not said that any civilian has been killed. Though there are claims and counterclaims of who's been executed, Pak soldiers or BLA cadre. BLA claims they have not lost a single person. And they claim they have actually executed 30 Pakistani military personnel. Pak military in international media have claimed that they have executed some BLA cadre. So that's where the
May I just have 10 seconds
yes.
to offer one more point of view on this? This is a classic case of information and disinformation. This is a time when the grey zone appears in all these situations. And obviously both sides are looking at it. The Pakistan army is putting out a tremendous amount of information outside. I have seen many channels here and there which are projecting that there have been civilian casualties, that there have been service casualties. There's nothing which is certain. In a situation such as this, what persists is the grey zone.
Yeah, it persists, but the BLA's response is that there are thousands of their Balochis, especially youth, a lot of women who have been missing for so many years, and they've been knocking at the doors of the UN for many years. They've been protesting year after year to at least give a record of these missing personnel, and the Pak military has failed them there. So has the UN. That's where the BLA says that Balochistan is their territory. It's been occupied by the Pakistanis since October 1947. That's their claim. And they say that they are whisking away people and there is no record of them, and largely youth. So where is the record and where is the response? And I think they want to raise this internationally and force the Pakistani hand there. The Pak military, on the other hand, says they have stormed in and they have cleared out civilians there. But if you have stormed into a tunnel and you've cleared out the civilians, why have you left back your soldiers? Because they do agree that there are nearly 150 plus soldiers in captivity. So if they have really gone in and stormed in and they have mounted an operation to free the civilians, why haven't they been able to free their soldiers? And why have they not negated all or neutralized all the BLA actors? So there are grey zones, like you said, towards claims and counterclaims. But the BLA seem to be in possession of the tunnel. They have identified the tunnel. Maruf Raza, airstrikes are not possible. There are only 2 points of entry and egress, and both sides they have derailed the train. So clearly they have come better prepared this time around compared to the Pak. And this is an isolated area far away from the mainstream regions that are under Pakistani control. Maruf Raza.
See, Anand, General Hasnain has put together some very well thought through points. He has considerable experience of dealing with insurgencies, but there are a few other issues. The first is that the BLA is looking to draw the attention back to themselves because they've been treated rather shoddily by the Pakistani establishment, and they would rather be standing up for themselves than wait for the international media to bring their sob story out. So that's one. The second aspect is that the Pakistan army has treated the Baloch Liberation Army very, very dismissively, and they've been very rough on them in terms of whatever treatment they have given out to them, whether through small operations or large-scale operations. They have used helicopters, which you might call air power in this situation, rather aggressively. Helicopters and air power have they have to be very well thought through before you use them. I'd like to draw your attention to the use of helicopter and heli power by the Pakistan army under General Musharraf when they came across rather strongly on Akbar Bukti, the leader of Balochis people, who was really respected.
Right.
But the Pakistan army and Musharraf was in no mood to talk. His arrogance was the cause of either the problem there or even in areas like northern reaches of Pakistan going in towards Kashmir. Musharraf was known as the butcher of Balochistan. So Kashmir, Balochistan, the use of air power and helicopter power to kill off whatever leadership would emerge has been a very poorly thought through strategy. But Musharraf, if I can go to the extent of calling him a pompous ass, was always there trying to project himself as the ultimate David Sterling type commando of the Pakistan army, and therefore he drew a lot of attention for the Pakistan army but very little sympathy. The Pakistan army really needs to go back to the drawing board and decide on what should be their strategy to deal with the Balochis. They have not dealt with the problem by understanding it. You know, in insurgencies, you don't kill off a few leaders and think you have a great success. In insurgencies, you need to understand where the problem is and negotiate with those who are harboring that problem and sentiment and try and get them onto the table to negotiate with those people who are fighting the claimants to a solution. The solution will not come by just a few armed soldiers knocking off the others who are unarmed. You have to understand the problem and nail it where it started from and then start clipping its wings. They are not doing any of that. They are just desperate right now. The Pakistan army would be desperate to try and show that they have the muscle power to deal with any problem within Pakistan. But they don't have the muscle power. And the muscle power lies neither with Pakistan, neither the Balochis, but to some extent the Afghan, Taliban and those elements which have been humoured by Pakistan for all these years, but now want to take back the initiative in their own hand.
Correct.
Because Pakistan created the Taliban on America's behest. And now they don't know how to move to the next level in the playing field. And that's where the problem comes from.
Right.
That if you don't address the problem in various stages, as the problem will continue to grow here,
True.
you will continue to make a mess of things.
True, and they seem to have turned the leaf, the BLA, in their operating mechanism post-COVID. 2022, 23, 24, 25, their attacks have only escalated, the scale of it and also the level of it. They've also turned fidain when they targeted the Chinese there, and they openly took responsibility for it in Karachi when those suicide attacks came through. Major Yasir Janjua, how is the Pakistani army going to deal with this now? Because you are stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's a tunnel. So you can't blow the whole thing up. You blow the whole thing up, you sacrifice all the soldiers. If you don't do it, then they may get executed, and the BLA then gets a heroic status. They are demanding release of some of them. And so from a negotiation point of view, how does the Pak army see this and deal with this?
I'm not at liberty to discuss that part because that is a discussion for at the official level what their negotiations are going. We can only sit here and give our analysis. In my understanding and reckoning, there are no negotiations. There should not be any negotiations with terrorists, with terror groups. As the previous guest mentioned, and which is right, and I don't know his background, but I value some of the comments he made, which is right. Few hundred of these Baloch Liberation Army people cannot dictate a state what to do. I have been saying this, we have been saying it, if they are legitimate representatives of the people of Balochistan, then they should go get a vote, come and prove their majority in the assembly. People will come out in flocks for them in Balochistan on the streets. And then nobody will stop. East Timor happened. This is not the way to do it. And they can't challenge the might. They have attacked innocent civilians and unarmed military personnel who were going on a vacation. Those are as good or as bad as the civilians because they are in their CVs. They are not even in uniform. They are not carrying their weapons. And they attacked them at a place. I have traveled extensively through that area because I served in the army. That's not an easy terrain. And those areas and those tunnels are the ideal places for ambush. And that's what they've done. They've just ambushed the tunnel. When the train went inside the tunnel, they blasted it, or they blasted the track. So now the train is stuck there. The question is this a brave act or is this a cowardly act? If they are man enough, they should go and fight the military against the militarized personnel. What are they? As Hasnan Saab was pointing out, and this is exactly how it is. In an insurgency, the insurgent, their only aim is they are not there to hold the ground. They are not there to win the war. They want to create media attention. This is exactly what they are doing. By hijacking a train, it has become an international news story. And that's about it. Irish Republican Army, for many, many years, this Balochistan Liberation Army is no different than Irish Republican Army. Do you think the Irish Republican Army was able to liberate Ireland? Sinn Féin and Irish Republican Army, every other day there was a blast in Ireland, Northern Ireland. So what happened? Is it a separate country now? Wishful thinking. For all those who are spending millions of dollars, the $25 million, that this is the minimum I know, has been funneled into Afghanistan by RAW for creating, fomenting dissent in Balochistan. Keep wasting your money. Be my guest. Spend more money. You are living in paradise if you think by recruiting 1,400 or 1,500 BLA militants, you can take over the country. And we have not yet sent 900,000 troops. I am very grateful to you for very patiently listening. This is why I like your channel. That nobody is interrupting, even if I am talking nonsense, utter nonsense. Still, this is democracy. I listen to everybody. I listen to all through two episodes. So what I'm saying is, we did not send 900,000 people, 900,000 soldiers into Kashmir to make sure it stays with us. Even today, since 1947, the makeup of the troops in Balochistan is the same. No extra troops have been brought in.
Right.
Because it is well within the capability of the corps commander in Balochistan to handle the situation, and he's handling it. I'll finish in next 10 seconds, honestly.
Okay.
I'm grateful for you to give me time. These kind of tactics that they are employing, ambushes in areas which are very rugged, difficult terrains. We call them Ferraris. They climb down from the mountains, they do their attacks and they go back.
But they've not gone back this time. They've not gone back this time, Major General. And
yes, they have not gone back, exactly. Because they have been surrounded now. They have been surrounded. They cannot go back.
The point is...
Because gunship helicopters will not let them leave the area. And that's what... Yes, there is a situation at hand and I will admit...
Major General, now you got to yield.
Last sentence. Yes, there is a situation at hand and that is what makes it difficult.
Correct.
And complex.
For someone...
There are hostages.
Okay, right now.
And for the release
now you have to. You said 10 seconds, and it's been more than 45 seconds before you said 10 seconds. So you must yield, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I raise my hand.
Thank you. Now, what happens, sir, is that sometimes when you allow people to speak and you don't interrupt them, they themselves accept that what they're saying is utter nonsense. The other thing they also do is that they walk into their own trap. With due respect, Major Janjua, the fact of the matter is that the Balochis never walked into Pakistan. the Pakistanis did on 22nd October 1947, and they countered whatever was a treaty, and they reneged on a promise of not to move into Balochistan. They continue to occupy that territory. So that's a different matter. To your credit, I must say that only after 2.5 minutes did you mention the word RNAW. And after 2 minutes and 45 seconds did you mention Kashmir, and from 7 lakh troops you upped the number by another 2 lakh to 9 lakh troops. So all of that, so I was waiting for that known passages which most of the people from Pakistan who join us on this one have already remembered, or they know it by rote. But thank you for that. You presented your point of view, but you've served in that region, you've travelled in that region, yet you've left that region unguarded. Yet your intelligence agencies, your entire machinery, mechanism has been caught unawares to a plan that's been well executed, not just devised, operationally executed so far. But Mehran Mari, you're a bunch of terrorists, 1,500 handful funded by the RNAW who have no cause, and you don't have the support of the Balochis. You're not a mainstream outfit. That's what he's called the BLA. I'm not saying you're part of BLA, you're a Baloch activist. So do you agree, disagree to this claim? And what are the BLA trying to do here? The Pak army claims you've hurt civilians. You're on mute, Mehran. You're on mute, Mehran.
You're on mute. You're on mute.
You're on mute, Mehran. Please unmute yourself. Yeah, go ahead, please. Contrary to what...
Can you hear me now?
Yes, contrary to what many Baloch claim, they've not been allowed to, they've been muted for the last many decades. We
Sure.
don't want
Can
to
you
mute
hear me now?
anybody. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think it's no laughing matter. I was not the only one trying to control my laugh. You were too as well. So, I mean, look at the Pakistanis. They live in a fool's paradise. I mean, look at the narrative they're towing. Oh, the Baloch attacked us in a tunnel which is very in a rugged area. Oh, our soldiers were hungry and they were attacked. Or they were sleeping and the gun was far away. I mean, are these grown-up men or these are children talking about this war? I mean, this is the arrogance and the ignorance of the Pakistani generals. They have served in Balochistan. They come and fill up their pockets, and most of them moved to Europe, but some of them still remain in Islamabad and other parts of Pakistan. Balochistan is a looting ground and a playground for them. As far as now, it has been. So they find it very hard to accept the new ground realities of Balochistan. Now the Baloch nation will not let you roam around freely, loot, plunder, rape and pillage with your great Chinese friends. And you were saying that we get 25 million. If we got 25 million, it's negligible compared to the 63 billion you get on Balochistan behalf from your dear friend China. And what have you done for the Chinese? For 20 years, you're robbing the Chinese from their money, not providing any security or anything for them. They're looting a little bit, but they were promised a lot. You cannot provide security to your own soldiers. What security will you provide to Beijing? And I'm sure even now you guys are waiting for Beijing's answer what to do with your soldiers, to sacrifice them or to save them. You take instructions from your masters from day one. It has been America, or now it's Beijing, or tomorrow it's going to be somebody else. So please do not disrespect the Baloch cause, because we are not like you.
Well, I've got limited time, so we'll bring in the China aspect immediately. General Hasnain, there are some inputs that the Chinese are going to be seriously concerned. Now, whether will they move out of Balochistan, will they demand boots on ground? The Baloch believe they are also upset with the increasing Chinese presence on their soil. And also they are worried that certain portions of Balochistan are being ceded by the Pakistanis to become freely operatable zones by the Chinese. Now, how much of merit is there in these claims and these worries? And Mehran right now says that the Pak establishment is waiting for Beijing to say what should be the next course of action. How true? Would you lend credence to that?
Anand, Balochistan occupies 40%, as far as I remember, 40% of the space of Pakistan and has 14% of the population. Those are approximate figures. It's got a huge amount of minerals and other resources which are there, which commensurate to what is present there in Balochistan has not been made available to the people, to the Baloch people. That's my reading. That's what I have understood all this time. And this is one of the prime causes of why the Baloch people have been so much against it. Now, the Chinese coming in, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, etc., we would have imagined that there would be a commensurate amount of development in Balochistan. Obviously, that is not there anywhere. Much of what is being stated just now is that lots of material, lots of goods, lots of capital which is available in Balochistan is being siphoned off by Pakistani generals, Pakistani establishment, etc. And obviously that is one of the major reasons why the Balochs have been up in arms. Now the Chinese presence here, if the Chinese decide to up and get out, I think it would be the worst projection of the PLA anywhere. The Chinese have decided that this is a strategic artery which they need to have, which is required for them. It is something to sidetrack the Indian Ocean, the Straits of Malacca. This is one of the flagship projects of the Belt and Road Initiative. And obviously they have been concerned. They have been very concerned, although the BLA hasn't particularly sort of in a targeted, focused way gone after the Chinese. They've only delivered messages through one or two actions which have taken place. I don't think Beijing would want to take decisions in a hurry because there's no doubt that they have provided their own troops for the protection of the China-Pakistan economic corridor also. But obviously those troops are not fully deployed in Balochistan to give the kind of security which the Pakistan army can probably provide to these various arteries, etc.
Right.
So to my mind, Beijing is going to remain out of it, but it will express its concerns very, very strongly and try and project that it is completely on the Pakistani side, which obviously it will be because it has invested so much there.
Right.
And that's about all. It won't go beyond that.
I've run out of time, but the final minute to Maruf Raza, can the Pak establishment pull itself out of a hole here? Because the more this tunnel situation continues, the bigger the embarrassment globally for Pakistan, because the bigger the attention the BLA draws. And there is a huge faction of the
Anand,
Baloch who are in Geneva
I've always
year
maintained-
after year claiming where are the 8,000 plus lost and what are the details. So when are they going to submit those details? Now that cause then again comes to the fore because that's one of their biggest demands. Yes, Marufji.
Anand, I know you're short of time, so a few bullet points.
Ji.
Point one, that China is using Pakistan to milk Pakistan for whatever resources it can provide, human resources, mineral resources, manpower resources, so that China can continue unfalteringly in their agenda to dominate Pakistan and through that firm up their BRI initiative, Belt and Road Initiative.
Right.
The second thing is that the Chinese have reacted very strongly against Pakistan if Pakistan not able to protect Chinese citizens or Chinese military men. Recent years, we saw the case of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, where some Chinese were surrounded by rebels in that area till China told Pakistan, you sort it out or we'll sort it out. And Pakistan got its act together. And finally, let me tell you that Pakistan is in a bit of a quandary because up to now, they had never expected that anybody is going to focus on their mischief in the Balochistan area because they thought that's too much of a sideshow to use the words of Lawrence of Arabia for the world to focus on it. But now they are going to have to answer to the Chinese leadership if they can do the bit or commanders will be changed. And in Pakistan, the leadership has to come down strongly. Now, harsh and quick methods of trying to discipline the Pakistan army to get some results out of them is normally okay in an open area where insurgencies are fought.
Right.
But in a tunnel where a train is stuck with personnel is a different ball game. And it requires a lot of quick planning or to have contingency plans. Both I don't think the Pakistan army is capable of implementing because the entire thinking is based on responding to challenges that India presents to them. not the Balochis or others. They took it for granted. They can hammer the butts of the rifles onto the Balochis and get them to fall in line.
Right.
It's not going to happen this time.
Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see.
I must admit, it's beyond my calculation to come up with a solution immediately.
Well, in this case, if you were to go by what Major Janjua says, if they're going to rain fire on all the BLA cadre via helicopter, or perhaps go and bomb a few more civilian areas in Balochistan as a message, is that going to yield, or is that going to be further bad PR and a PR nightmare? On the other hand, you got the safety of those 100 or odd soldiers. And if they get executed, 150 soldiers, their death is on whose hands? Is that not the Pakistani military establishment then, if that happens? So it's a bit of a PR nightmare, and it's also an operational nightmare. More importantly, there is a big intelligence led up there. There's a big screw up, and that's going to perhaps hurt the ISI and that famed ISI and also the Pak military establishment quite a bit. Gentlemen, I've run out of time. We'll keep close tabs on these developments and come back to it. Thank you very much for joining us here on this edition of The Right Stand. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, it is Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath who's made a huge claim. He says there is a Puranic mention dating back to 3,500 years. So nearly 2,000 years even before Islam even arrived, of Sambhal and Shambhaleshwar. Stay with us.
जहाज में बड़ी
Ukraine on Tuesday agreed to accept a U.S. proposal for an immediate 30-day ceasefire in the conflict with Russia. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced the agreement after more than 8 hours of talks between Ukrainian and U.S. officials in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia.
Today we made an offer that the Ukrainians have accepted, which is to enter into a ceasefire and into immediate negotiations to end this conflict in a way that's enduring and sustainable and accounts for their interests, their security, their ability to prosper as a nation.
Rubio said he would now take the offer to Moscow.
And we hope that they'll say yes, that they'll say yes to peace. The ball is now in their court.
The development comes after a stunning Oval Office shouting match between the presidents of the two countries.
You're gambling with World War III.
The rift had immediate repercussions for Ukraine. President Donald Trump canceled military support and ended crucial intelligence sharing. But as part of accepting the proposed ceasefire, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz said Washington will resume sharing aid and intelligence with Kyiv.
And that's effective immediately.
Outside the White House, Trump said there would be a U.S. meeting with Russia to discuss the ceasefire plan soon.
Hopefully President Putin will agree to that also, and we can get this show on the road. I think it's a big difference between the last visit you saw at the Oval Office and this. So that's a total ceasefire. Ukraine has agreed to it, and hopefully Russia will agree to it. We're going to meet with them later on today and tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be able to wipe out a deal. If we can't, we just keep going on, and people are going to get killed, lots of people.
Is Zelensky invited back to the White House?
Sure, absolutely.
Later, Russia's foreign ministry said it didn't rule out contacts with U.S. representatives over the next several days, according to state news agency RIA. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who was in Saudi Arabia but did not participate in the talks, said the ceasefire was a positive proposal.
Вважаємо це позитивним.
He also said the two countries would work to finalize a minerals agreement.
І дійсно там прописано, що Україна готова прийняти у разі, якщо Росія буде згодна на це, зробити як перший крок перемир'я на 30 днів для того, щоб почати дійсно готувати якийсь вже більш важливий документ, готувати перемовини. Американські партнери будуть вже говорити з російською стороною про те, що ось, будь ласка, є можливість для того, щоб рухатися вперед, якщо дійсно Росія готова до цього, а це буде очевидно. І сьогодні, після цієї зустрічі, 100% сьогодні ключ, як навіть написано у спільній заяві, ключ сьогодні саме у російської сторони. Так, ця угода, вона буде підписана. Ви знаєте, що вона є рамочною. Після цього команди почнуть вже працювати над більш детальним документом. Сьогодні в цій заяві ми просто підтвердили наміри двох сторін, двох президентів, для того, щоб це дійсно сталося. Ми дуже цінуємо лідерство президента Трампа. Ми вважаємо, що Сполучені Штати саме та країна, яка може сьогодні зробити все для того, щоб цей справедливий мир настав. Вони мають ці важелі.
І сьогодні в розмові була пропозиція саме американської сторони зробити перший крок одразу далі. І на 30 днів спробувати встановити повне припинення вогню. Не тільки щодо ракет, дронів і бомб, не тільки у Чорному морі, а також по всій лінії фронту. Україна сприймає цю пропозицію. Ми вважаємо це позитивним. Ми готові зробити такий крок. Американська сторона розуміє наші аргументи, сприймає наші пропозиції. І я хочу подякувати президенту Трампу за конструктивність розмови наших команд.
But very importantly, and I said it, Ukraine, ceasefire. Ukraine, ceasefire. Just agreed to a little while ago. Now we have to go to Russia and hopefully President Putin will agree to that also, and we can get this show on the road. We can get this horrible war where 2,000-3,000 soldiers a week, every week, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 sometimes. I get the reports, and they're not American soldiers. They're Ukrainian and they're Russian. But people are being killed outside of that. People are being killed in the cities as things explode throughout the cities.
Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has said that forcibly seizing someone's faith and trampling over their beliefs is unacceptable, especially when we know the truth about Sambhal. He claimed that the site, this area of Sambhal has been referenced in our scriptures over 5,000 years ago, predating Islam by as much as 3,500 years, and that a Vishnu temple there was demolished in 1526. It is actually a Harihar temple, so the main shrine is of Shiva, but that's the place where Sambhal, it's destined that the 10th avatar of Vishnu, the next avatar of Vishnu, will be born. UPCM also said that Sambhal has been mentioned in the scriptures that are 5,000 years old. They contain references to Lord Vishnu's future incarnation. Islam, on the other hand, emerged only 1400 years ago. He contended that he was talking about something that predates Islam by at least 2,000 years, if not more. Because the last reference, he's saying that between 5,000 to 3,500 years, there have been references to Sambhal, Shambhaleshwar, that's the shrine, asserting that there is a historical truth to it. Let's listen into what Yogi Adityanath had to say. All right. Before we play that out, I think we've got Acharya Pramod Krishnam, the chair of the Kalki Peeth. Pramod Krishnam ji, namaste. Thank you for speaking with us. Yogi Adityanath, the Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister, has said that there is a reference of Sambhal at least more than 3,500 years ago. Is that true?
Anand, definitely he's saying absolutely correct. और बहुत ही ज़्यादा पौराणिक शहर है, पौराणिक स्थान है संभल. संभल का जिक्र स्कंद पुराण में है, भविष्य पुराण में है, कल्की पुराण में है और श्रीमद् भागवत में भी है. श्रीमद् भागवत के अंदर 12वें स्कंद में स्पष्ट लिखा है कि भगवान का होने वाला कल्की अवतार यानी भगवान विष्णु का 10वां और अंतिम अवतार श्री कल्की नारायण का अवतार 24 कोस की परिधि में होगा. यानी 3 योजन का जिक्र है. 3 योजन मतलब 8 या 24 कोस. 24 कोस का मतलब है लगभग 48 किलोमीटर के रेडियस में होगा. नंबर 1. नंबर 2, जहां भगवान कल्की का अवतार होगा उस स्थान को संभल के नाम से जाना जाएगा। वो स्थान संभल गंगा के उत्तर दिशा में स्थित होगा, ये भी लिखा हुआ है। गंगा के उत्तर तट पे उसमें 68 तीर्थ होंगे, 19 कूप होंगे और दक्षिण दिशा में गंगा बहेगी। उस जगह 48 किलोमीटर के रेडियस में भगवान श्री कल्की के रूप में विष्णु यश नाम के ब्राह्मण के घर, ये भी लिखा हुआ है। उसका श्लोक है, संभल ग्राम मुखस्य ब्राह्मणस्य महात्मना भवने विष्णु यशस्य कल्की प्रादुर्भविष्यति। यानी भवने विष्णु यश नाम के ब्राह्मण के घर भवन में संभल ग्राम मुखस्य ब्राह्मणस्य महात्मना, संभल नामक स्थान पर संभल ग्राम मुखस्य ब्राह्मणस्य महात्मना भवने विष्णु यशस्य कल्की प्रादुर्भविष्यति। ये बहुत साफ लिखा है और इसी उद्घोषणा को आधार मानते हुए हमने भगवान के अवतरण स्थली पर उनके अवतार से पहले श्री कल्की धाम बनाने का संकल्प लिया था, जिसका शिलान्यास 19 फरवरी 2024 को भारत के यशस्वी प्रधानमंत्री आदरणीय नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने संभल आकर के श्री कल्की धाम का शिलान्यास किया था। और अब भगवान के अवतार से पहले ही ये कल्की धाम का निर्माण चल रहा है।
So you say that in multiple Puranas there is a mention of Sambhal and that there will be the future incarnation of Vishnu will be born. So these are all, they date at least more than 2000 years ago. Now let me also ask you, this mention of 68 Tirth places, of which Yogi Adityanath mentioned 18 are found, 50 are yet to found. And what's the connection of this Harihar temple complex, which is where the current day Jama Masjid is? What's the connection? इसका connection क्या है?
ये जो जामा मस्जिद है, ये जो जामा मस्जिद है, यहाँ एक मंदिर था जो भगवान शिव का मंदिर था, जिसे हरिहर मंदिर के नाम से जाना जाता था। इसका जिक्र पुराणों में है। 68 तीर्थ मध्य में शिवलिंग, कूप कदम न्यारे, दिशा दक्षिणी बहती गंगा, हर मंदिर प्यारे। ये चिन्ह हैं उस जगह के, उस स्थान के, उस भूमि के जहां भगवान कल्की का अवतार होगा। और ये भी लिखा हुआ है गंगा और राम गंगा के मध्य में होगा। ये भी लिखा हुआ 3 योजन की परिधि में होगा, यानी 24 कोस की परिधि में होगा। 24 कोस का मतलब 48 किलोमीटर। तो ये जो जामा मस्जिद है, यही वो हर मंदिर है जिसको पृथ्वीराज चौहान के ज़माने में, उससे पहले स्थापित किया गया, लेकिन पृथ्वीराज चौहान के दौर में इसका जीर्णोद्धार कराया गया। ये शिवलिंग है, इसको शिवलिंग हर मंदिर मानते हैं। और हर हर महादेव का जो नारा लगता है। और इसी को 1529 में बाबर ने तोड़ा। बाबर ने जो 3 बड़े टेम्पल तोड़े, वो एक पानीपत का, एक अयोध्या का, एक संभल का। ये इतिहास में दर्ज है। मैं कह रहा हूँ या कोई और कह रहा, उसको मानना उचित नहीं है, लेकिन ये हिस्ट्री के अंदर है कि संभल में एक मंदिर था जिसको तोड़ा गया। तो संभल में ये मंदिर जो तोड़ा गया, इसको तोड़ करके मस्जिद बनाई गई। और मस्जिद बनाने के लिए जमीन नहीं थी ऐसा तो नहीं था, उस जमाने में तो जमीनें थी। तो भगवान जहां आया, यानी अयोध्या में, वो मंदिर तोड़ा गया, यानी हिंदुओं की आस्था को खंडित किया गया। भगवान जहां आएगा, जिस जगह आएगा, वहां भी मंदिर तोड़ा गया। तो प्रश्न ये पैदा होता है कि आज जो आपका सवाल है, मैं उसको स्पष्ट रूप से शास्त्र के दृष्टिकोण से, पुराण के दृष्टिकोण से मैं आपको ये कहना चाहता हूं कि भगवान का अवतार जिस तरह अयोध्या में हुआ, जिस तरह मथुरा में हुआ कृष्ण का अवतार, भगवान कल्की का अवतार संभल में होगा। और आनंद, ये संभल नहीं है, SAMBHAL नहीं है। संभल इसका गलत स्वरूप है। ये संभल है, SHAMBH। शंभू से संभल बना है। तो पुराण में लिखा ये शंभू है, शंभू से संभल बना, और शंभू से शंभलेश्वर महादेव। पुराण में है शंभू से शंभलेश्वर महादेव जहां स्थापित होंगे, उस जगह को हर मंदिर के नाम से जाना जाएगा। और इसीलिए हमारी जो आरती है, उसमें ये सैकड़ों सालों से हम गाते हैं, 68 तीर्थ मध्य में शिवलिंग। ये वो शिवलिंग है, मध्य में शिवलिंग, कूप कदम न्यारे, दिशा दक्षिणी बहती गंगा, हर मंदिर प्यारे। तो ये जो 68 तीर्थ हैं, इनको भी खंडित किया गया मुगलिया पीरियड के दौर में। जिसको आप पूछ रहे हैं कि ये बाकी तीर्थ कहाँ हैं, तो इनको खंडित किया गया। इनको तोड़ा गया। इन तीर्थों में जैसे मणिकर्णिका तीर्थ है, मृत्युंजय तीर्थ है, चंद्रेश्वर तीर्थ है, वंश गोपाल तीर्थ है, हर मंदिर तीर्थ है, मनोकामना तीर्थ, और ये तीर्थ सारे तोड़े गए। फिर अभी कुछ दिनों से क्या था कि ये जो जब से ये चल रहा है तो इसमें इन सब तीर्थों को जो खोजा जा रहा है, ये एक एक करके सारे तीर्थ मिल रहे हैं। ये तीर्थ किसी ने हमने आपने स्थापित नहीं किए, इनका जिक्र पुराणों में है। इसलिए योगी आदित्यनाथ जी जो मुख्यमंत्री हैं उत्तर प्रदेश के, लेकिन मुख्यमंत्री के साथ साथ गोरक्ष पीठाधीश्वर हैं, एक संत हैं, एक स्वामी हैं, एक साधु हैं, एक सन्यासी हैं, तपोनिष्ठ व्यक्ति हैं और एक योगी हैं। वो जो विवरण दे रहे हैं पुराणों का, वो बिल्कुल ठीक दे रहे हैं। स्कंद पुराण में, भविष्य पुराण में, अग्नि पुराण में, श्रीमद् भागवत में इसका उल्लेख है, जो हजारों साल पहले लिखा गया।
Right. So you're saying there are multiple references, and what Yogi as a Mahant, as a Peethadish also is saying is correctly referencing to the text. Acharya ji, before I come back to you with the final question, let's quickly listen into what Yogi Adityanath said.
संभल में श्री हरि विष्णु का मंदिर तोड़ा गया था। संभल एक तीर्थ रहा है, 68 तीर्थ थे वहां पे, अभी हम केवल 18 निकाल पाए हैं। मैंने भगवत बाना धारण किया, ये मेरी पहचान है, हमारे सनातन की पहचान भी है, तो मुझे तो इसके गौरव की अनुभूति होती है, और एक दिन पूरी दुनिया पहने की देखना।
So that's what he has said. So, but he's also gone on to say, Acharya Pramod Krishnam, that post-independence, last 56 years it took for even their Jalabhishek to take place. वहाँ Jalabhishek करने के लिए भी at the Shivling which was there. So post-independence, and you clearly have seen a few decades of what's happened in Sambhal. So tell me, was there a deliberate attempt to try and also obfuscate and block even post-independence?
देखिए आनंद, बिल्कुल ठीक कह रहे हैं योगी जी। और अब आप सोचिएगा वहां की स्थिति क्या थी, इस 56 सालों में स्थिति संभल की क्या थी। वहां अगर श्रीमद् भागवत की कथा भी कराई जाती थी तब भी उसकी अनुमति नहीं मिलती थी। अगर राम कथा करता था तो अनुमति नहीं मिलती थी। इन 68 तीर्थों की हम परिक्रमा करना चाहते थे, इस पे भी पाबंदी लगी हुई थी। और मजेदार बात, इंटरेस्टिंग बात यह है, और ये फैक्चुअल है, मैं इसको फैक्ट के साथ रखूं, कि जब 18 साल पहले, 16 साल पहले हमने ये घोषणा की कि जहां भगवान आएंगे, उनके आने से पहले उनकी अवतरण स्थली पर उनके नाम का धाम बनना चाहिए। श्री कल्की धाम बनाने की जब हमने घोषणा की तो उस पर पाबंदी लगा दी। सोचिए, धरती हमारी, धर्म हमारा, धन हमारा, आस्था हमारी, लेकिन हम श्री कल्की धाम का निर्माण नहीं कर पाए। 18 सालों तक हम सुप्रीम कोर्ट, हाई कोर्ट, सुप्रीम कोर्ट, हम धक्के खाते रहे। और फिर 2023 में अगस्त में इलाहाबाद हाई कोर्ट की डबल बेंच ने हमारे हक में फैसला दिया। और हमारे हक में फैसला दिया, उसके बाद 19 फरवरी 2024 को श्री कल्की धाम का शिलान्यास हुआ। मैं आज आपके चैनल पे ये बताना चाहता हूं, अगर इस देश का प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी और उत्तर प्रदेश के मुख्यमंत्री योगी आदित्यनाथ नहीं होते तो श्री कल्की धाम का शिलान्यास भी नहीं हो सकता था। तो संभल की जो स्थिति है वहां ऐसे नहीं है जैसे हरिद्वार है, वृंदावन है, दिल्ली है और दूसरी जगह है, कि आप हमारे यहाँ जागरण करने में भी पाबंदी थी, क्योंकि सत्ता में वो लोग रहते थे, चाहे मायावती जी मुख्यमंत्री रही हूं, चाहे मुलायम सिंह जी मुख्यमंत्री। मैं बड़ी बात कह रहा हूं, मैं बहुत बड़ी बात कह रहा हूं, मेरा स्टेटमेंट ऑन रिकॉर्ड लिया जाए। मुलायम सिंह जी मुख्यमंत्री रहे, मायावती जी मुख्यमंत्री रही, अखिलेश यादव मुख्यमंत्री रहे, लेकिन संभल के जो सांसद थे डॉक्टर शफीकुर रहमान बर्क साहब, जो अब नहीं है, मरहूम डॉक्टर शफीकुर रहमान बर्क, वो जब मायावती जी की सरकार आती थी तो उसमें चले जाते थे, जब मुलायम सिंह जी की तो उसमें थे, और उसके बाद अखिलेश यादव जी की तो उसमें थे। यानी वहां हुकूमत ना मुलायम सिंह जी की चलती थी, ना मायावती जी की चलती थी, ना अखिलेश यादव की चलती थी। वहां हुकूमत डॉक्टर शफीकुर रहमान बर्क साहब की चलती थी, और डॉक्टर शफीकुर रहमान बर्क ने ही श्री कल्की धाम के निर्माण को रोक के रखा। सोचो, 16 से 17 साल। अगर वहां जागरण होता था माँ भगवती का, तो उसका जो मंच लगाया जाता था उसको उखाड़ के पुलिस फेंक दिया करती थी। वहां कांवड़ की यात्राएं नहीं होती थी, वहां होली मनाने पे पाबंदी थी, अगर कभी शुक्रवार के दिन होली आती थी तो होली को रोक दिया जाता था और शुक्रवार की वजह से। सवाल इस वक्त है कि ये जुल्म, ये जातियां, ये अत्याचार हिंदू कम्युनिटी ने संभल में सहे हैं, हमने सहे हैं, हमने सहे हैं। जब श्री कल्की पीठ की स्थापना हुई 2 नवंबर 2007 को, तब पूरा छावनी बना दिया गया कल्की पीठ के आसपास। हमें वहां यज्ञ हवन करने के लिए भी कितने पापड़ बेलने पड़ते थे, कितनी जगह से हमें अनुमति लेनी पड़ती थी, और जब तिथि निश्चित हो जाती थी आनंद जी, तो उस तिथि तक अनुमति नहीं मिलती थी, बड़ी मुश्किल में अनुमति मिलती थी। ये आलम था संभल का। आज का संभल, जो संभल आप देख रहे हैं, जहां श्री कल्की धाम का निर्माण चल रहा है, श्री कल्की धाम पर के निर्माण पर जो रोक लगी वो हट चुकी है, श्री कल्की धाम का शिलान्यास हो चुका है। संभल की धरती पे जहां कोई आना पसंद नहीं करता, वहां भारत के प्रधानमंत्री जी आए, उन्होंने अपने हाथ से श्री कल्की धाम का शिलान्यास किया। आज जो तीर्थ हमारे खो गए थे वो तीर्थ मिल रहे हैं, उनका अभिषेक हो रहा है, परिक्रमाएं हो रही हैं। ये सब इस वजह से हो रहा है क्योंकि मुझे लगता है
you're saying, Acharya ji, that this is a modern day, it's not a modern day phenomenon. There is a huge deep history to this, and there is a Puranic connection to Sambhal and Shambhaleshwar. Thank you for your inputs and thank you for joining us. With that, we're going to wind up this edition of The Right Stand. Thank you for watching.
Ukraine on Tuesday agreed to accept a U.S. proposal for an immediate 30-day ceasefire in the conflict with Russia. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced the agreement after more than 8 hours of talks between Ukrainian and U.S. officials in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia.
Today we made an offer that the Ukrainians have accepted, which is to enter into a ceasefire and into immediate negotiations to end this conflict in a way that's enduring and sustainable and accounts for their interests, their security, their ability to prosper as a nation.
Rubio said he would now take the offer to Moscow.
And we hope that they'll say yes, that they'll say yes to peace. The ball is now in their court.
The development comes after a stunning Oval Office shouting match between the presidents of the two countries.
You're gambling with World War III.
The rift had immediate repercussions for Ukraine. President Donald Trump canceled military support and ended crucial intelligence sharing. But as part of accepting the proposed ceasefire, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz said Washington will resume sharing aid and intelligence with Kyiv.
And that's effective immediately.
Outside the White House, Trump said there would be a U.S. meeting with Russia to discuss the ceasefire plan soon.
Hopefully President Putin will agree to that also, and we can get this show on the road. I think it's a big difference between the last visit you saw at the Oval Office and this. So that's a total ceasefire. Ukraine has agreed to it, and hopefully Russia will agree to it. We're going to meet with them later on today and tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be able to wipe out a deal. If we can't, we just keep going on, and people are going to get killed, lots of people.
Is Zelensky invited back to the White House?
Sure, absolutely.
Later, Russia's foreign ministry said it didn't rule out contacts with U.S. representatives over the next several days, according to state news agency RIA. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who was in Saudi Arabia but did not participate in the talks, said the ceasefire was a positive proposal.
Вважаємо це позитивним.
He also said the two countries would work to finalize a minerals agreement.
І дійсно там прописано, що Україна готова прийняти, у разі якщо Росія буде згодна на це, зробити як перший крок перемир'я на 30 днів для того, щоб почати дійсно готувати якийсь вже більш важливий документ, готувати перемовини. Американські партнери будуть вже говорити з російською стороною, про те, що ось, будь ласка, є можливість для того, щоб рухатися вперед, якщо дійсно Росія готова до цього, а це буде очевидно. І сьогодні, після цієї зустрічі, 100% сьогодні ключ, як навіть написано у спільній заяві, ключ сьогодні саме у російської сторони. Так, ця угода, вона буде підписана. Ви знаєте, що вона є рамочною. Після цього команди почнуть вже працювати над більш детальним документом. Сьогодні в цій заяві ми просто підтвердили наміри двох сторін, двох президентів, для того, щоб це дійсно сталося. Ми дуже цінуємо лідерство президента Трампа. Ми вважаємо, що Сполучені Штати саме та країна, яка може сьогодні зробити все для того, щоб цей справедливий мир настав. Вони мають ці важелі.
І сьогодні в розмові була пропозиція саме американської сторони зробити перший крок одразу далі. І на 30 днів спробувати встановити повне припинення вогню. Не тільки щодо ракет, дронів і бомб, не тільки у Чорному морі, а також по всій лінії фронту. Україна сприймає цю пропозицію. Ми вважаємо це позитивним. Ми готові зробити такий крок. Американська сторона розуміє наші аргументи, сприймає наші пропозиції. І я хочу подякувати президенту Трампу за конструктивність у розмови наших команд.
But very importantly, and I said it, Ukraine, ceasefire. Ukraine, ceasefire. Just agreed to a little while ago. Now we have to go to Russia and hopefully President Putin will agree to that also, and we can get this show on the road. We can get this horrible war where 2,000-3,000 soldiers a week, every week, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 sometimes. I get the reports, and they're not American soldiers. They're Ukrainian and they're Russian. But people are being killed outside of that. People are being killed in the cities as things explode throughout the cities. And we want to get that war over with. So I think it's a very big, I think it's a big difference between the last visit you saw at the Oval Office and this. So that's a total ceasefire. Ukraine has agreed to it, and hopefully Russia will agree to it. We're going to meet with them later on today and tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be able to wipe out a deal. But I think the ceasefire is very important. If we can get Russia to do it, that'll be great. If we can't, we just keep going on and people are going to get killed, lots of people.
Is Zelensky invited back to the White House?
Sure, absolutely.
Good evening, you're watching Brass Tacks. I'm Zakir Jacob. It is one of the worst terror attacks on Pakistani soil. A group of armed fighters of the Balochistan Liberation Army hijacked a moving train in Pakistan's far west. While they released most of the women, children and other civilians, there are still over 100 hostages, many of whom happen to be security personnel, either from the army or the local police, who are still inside the train and who are still held captive by the BLA. This is by far the most daring terror hijack in Pakistan's history. But the question is, who are the BLA? What is this organization, the Balochistan Liberation Army? Pakistan has declared it a terror organization since 2006, so has the US, but not the United Nations. They are not a designated terror organization by the United